afraid if we lose this one, it's going to take a civil war to save the country, and it will be saved. It's the greatest experiment in the history of mankind. And if we
What
come
the
down to a
heck?
civil war, I'm glad we got people like Schmitty and the Bikers for Trump on our side.
This is Ohio State Senator George Lang calling.
What's up, you guys? It's Dublin, and welcome to the Double is Bubble. Yay! We're going to talk about, in honor of November the 5th, Election Day, right? This is the last day for all of y'all to vote and stuff. So we're going to talk about different conspiracy theories surrounding both candidates, right? Go over the major candidates, even though there's other candidates, but no one really pays attention to those, right? That's insane. Some people don't even know that there's other candidates besides Republican and Democrat. You don't have to vote for them. But either way, we're going to jump into the conspiracies. It's going to talk about just the candidates in general. It's going to talk about civil war, because some people think we're about to go into a civil war. I don't really and truly, we don't know what the heck God has in store. So we don't know what the heck is honestly going to happen, because some people talk about civil war and if you're like, who are you going to fight against? Are you going to fight against the government? Or you really think that y'all can just get together and fight against the government? Come on now, go. Anyway, let's just get into it.
Won a primary.
Never had a vote in one.
The American people have never raised their hand and said, we want Kamala Harris.
That's right.
It's never
That's
happened.
true.
She was appointed after she was put on the ticket with Joe Biden by the Democratic National Convention as their chosen pair. Now she's running for president with nobody having ever put her in the position where she should even be able to run for president. Think about all the qualified candidates out there who tried on the Democratic side, who tried to get to that spot where they could even have a chance to debate, and they were never allowed because Biden chose to have no debates, sitting on the precipice of potentially electing someone into office who has never hit any of the pre-qualifications to become someone who runs for the presidency. It's just a person passed their endorsement, a party represented them. All the support that you've seen come through, it's all political support. It's all other senators and Congress people, PAC money coming in, and delegates coming in. That's all political. You know, this is one of the things that's troubling about the upcoming election. Kamala Harris has never.
I think I had brought that up before, like in my other video that was specifically talking about the Kamala Harris rally that was in Atlanta, and I had said that there was other people. There were other candidates for the Democratic spot, and of course Biden won. So it was all of them, they just fought for no reason, because in the end, Biden didn't even end up being the Democratic candidate. It's Kamala just kind of came and just swept it up, and she didn't put in all of that work to really get the nomination, which is why a lot of people are upset. It's not just, Democrat versus Republican. It's the fact, or just hating on Kamala. It's the fact that it wasn't done in the most fair fashion, if you want to put it like that.
As the presidential debates and elections are revving up, I'm going to explain what I mean when I say politics isn't real. What the system has done was convince society that in order to make grand change, we have to vote someone in during election time. Now, what that does is it allows them to stay in complete and total control over the masses. But here's the kicker. They never, ever planned to create anything in society that will actually allow humanity to thrive. So all this talk about implementing these laws, implementing these bills, making these changes and that, it's all BS, because their plan and intentions is already in tow. Their one and only agenda is to have complete and control over society. And that's it. That's why when watching this debate, there's so many people saying this can't really be our two options, and that it's ridiculous and it doesn't even seem real. That's because it isn't, people. It's what's called political theater. It's a ruse. It's a game. It's smoke and mirrors just to keep humanity involved. Because without us, their plan and agenda would fail. Which brings me to say this. We have two options at this point. We either continue to let them play on our intelligence, continue to be led down a path to be controlled by people who absolutely do not have our best interest in mind, or we wake up to the realization we are literally the individuals that make up society. So if there's something in society that we don't like, we just simply change it. We take the power back, we take the control, because we know that we have our best interest in heart and in mind. And if we want a utopian society for ourselves, and we are the individuals that make up society, why wouldn't we be able to create that? We can. You can join my Discord for more conversations like this, and to be involved in the movement. It's linked in my bio, because I'm telling you right now, you're either fueling their agenda or you're fueling the opposite that's meant to better humanity. There is no in between. As the presidential...
Okay, let's just be for real. Do y'all really think... I don't disagree, like, entirely with everything that she's saying, but, like, let's just be realistic. Okay, like, yeah, the presidential elections obviously is rigged. It's not the popular vote like a lot of people assume. There's the whole electoral college. Like, if you paid attention in history class, because some people don't, honestly, and they end up having these discussions about the elections as though it really means something. Like let's say, for instance, you live in a red state. You can have a bunch of people vote Democrat all they want, all day long. But the way that the districts, the way they have, like, it all broken up, can literally equal up to still being red. Just because the way they put the borders. What's it called? Gerrymandering? I might be tripping, y'all. But either way, the point is that, like, even though you might have a whole bunch of people voting Democrat, the way that it's split up would end up making that, they could still make that state red, right? So it's not all about, like, popular vote. It's not really the most, I don't know if that's really sensible. I would have to go into more details about the electoral college to give my full opinion of whether or not it makes sense. But to me, in general, when you just talk about it, it doesn't make any sense. So we know, like, what she's saying, that the presidential elections are kind of rigged, because you could easily change up, like, if it's not the popular vote. Because in the end, did y'all know that even though a candidate might get the electoral votes, the electoral college doesn't technically have to vote the same as that state that they're representing? Did y'all know that? Like, they can still vote differently. So even if... Now, I might be wrong. I remember reading about this. I might be wrong. Y'all correct me in the comments. Like, technically, they don't have to vote for what was... Like, if that state was red, they don't have to vote for that, for instance. So, like, to me, it's still rigged. But her saying that we have the power to, like, stand up for ourselves and side on the realms of humanity, and I just don't see how the heck that's possible. Like, the way that the country, like, even if all of us sit here and bring up the truth, and it's like in everybody's eyes, unless we have real power when it comes to manpower, when it comes to, there's nothing we can do. You can't change the government and the quote unquote shadow government. There's people with money that's not even, just beyond trillions, beyond the riches that we can imagine in this world. They have a literal convention where all the richest people in the world, all the powers of the world, talk about how they want to steer the earth, basically. And these people are not voted in. These people are not elected or nothing, but they have a huge convention where they come together and decide basically the fate of the world. What the heck are we gonna do? Y'all gotta worry about your own salvation at this point, because really and truly, there's nothing we can do physically. I think we need to focus maybe spiritually, but I'm going too far out there because there's nothing we can do to fight this
So
physically.
there was a document that is circulating right now that is really big. It's going around everywhere. People are asking and
What is
wondering-
this document?
It's called the Wilson Memo. Is how you can find it online,
The Wilson.
or the Wilson Leak.
There it is. Jimmy's got it. The Wilson Memorandum. Use of human volunteers.
No,
I just wanted to make sure that was it. Yeah,
no, that's not it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion. Oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G, and if I remember,
No, somebody said Jerry Corbell is as trustworthy as AI Sharpton. Dang. Let me back it up.
no,
Make sure that was it. Yeah.
no, that's not it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion. Oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G, and if I remember, the document is from 2001. I'm telling everybody right now, it's real, and we'll see. My history is pretty good with like saying if something's real or not, right? So here we go.
Okay,
The document comes out. They meet at EG&G special projects. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. This happens. They put the technology away, and then they bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things it's vindicating besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral, and he says, I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access. So I think the takeaway here is, check it out. I'm telling you that is an actual correct, that is a leak. Now, everything said in that document, I don't know.
What are you talking about? What is said in that document specifically?
It's between a scientist and an admiral that are sitting, and they're having a meeting, and they're talking about the search for the UFO subject, the search to get special access program access to all of these different things like reverse engineering programs. So in this document, they talk about it. I believe that this document, the person that went was employed by Robert Bigelow, one of the guys that has a couple of orbiting satellites and all that stuff.
He's the guy who owns Skinwalker Ranch.
No, he's not. He was the guy that owns
He used
Skinwalker.
to own it. Okay.
Yeah, he used to own it. There's a new owner, and I interviewed him for my other film, but there's a new owner, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that soon. But there's stuff that you'll be hearing about Skinwalker Ranch soon because there's a new owner. Anyway, the whole point of this insertion here is just that document kind of validates a lot of this idea Bob just said, that they make a little progress, then they can't go anywhere, they tuck it away, and then they bring it back out 10 years later and start working on it. What is the limiting factor? I think Bob should speak on this, but it's the material science.
Yeah, it's really where physics is. So I can see them doing that. I mean, I didn't have any information on that, but I think what George uncovered is probably accurate. That we try and do what we can, and once we reach a roadblock going, we really can't figure it out. It's just friggin' wait, put the thing away, wait for science to catch up, and a decade later, let's take the project out again and see. All right, now where can we go?
But there's got to be someone who remains informed, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
you've got your scientists like you and Barry. You got your people that you compartmentalize. You got these people working on
Yeah,
this
there
project.
has to be some people
Right.
that know everything.
You've got security, and then someone's going to be on the outside saying, hey, we need people to guard this building. Don't let anybody in for 10 years.
I think a lot of that is private industry, and I think that's how they
Really?
keep it. Yeah, I think that's how they because the government is just so leaky. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
That's what the document kind of proves. You just articulated that it is in control of private industry.
What private industry?
So there is a document that is circulating.
It stops right at the what private industry. Do y'all believe that there's a shadow government? I mean, I don't know if it's really in the shadows like that anymore. Kind of like what I was saying about the convention. I don't think it's in the shadows. I think it's outright out there that there's people higher above the government. I mean, even you learn that in a history class where there's lobbying of the government, and you can get certain laws passed just by having enough power to support a certain candidate, or support a certain politician. So not everything is just entirely, decided by the government. There's other factors that are in play. But just how much the shadow government, I don't know.
I've recently come into contact
that of a secret government, accountable to not a single elected official, including apparently the president himself. A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself. It is an elitist vision of government that trusts no one, not the people, not the Congress, and not the cabinet. It is a vision of a government operated by persons convinced they have a monopoly on truth. That of a secret government.
Somebody said the Vatican. I have heard that before. That used to be a very big thing a couple of years ago. People used to say that the Vatican, maybe 2010-ish, everybody was saying how the Pope was really the person in control. People were saying the Pope was the Antichrist. You couldn't find out there's buku Antichrist. It's not just one person, it's the Antichrist. This person just gonna rise and sit on the throne and just take over the world. That's not how it's gonna happen. There's already Antichrist. If you really pay attention to what everybody is saying, you can conclude that some of these politicians are actually Antichrist if you want to take it there. But the idea that maybe the shadow government is truly being run or being created by the Vatican, I mean, it's possible. It's possible because we don't really understand or know what type of books or what type of occult stuff is really going on in Rome. Like I was saying, that I don't think that this is really a fight physically as much anymore, as much as it's a fight spiritually. It's not something that we can just gain muscles and fight. I really think that this is a war against our mind, our soul, and our spirits. But, that's kind of going too far, because if you really pay attention and you realize a lot of these world powers gain a whole bunch of knowledge not from this physical realm. We're going to kind of cover that.
It's a little weird. Anyone else have?
I'm a scholar.
Let's build about.
Things have gotten a lot worse.
I'm going to show you a video that's not going to end up on mainstream news. If you are not aware, the people in everybody, and they want to take away. And
ladies.
Alright, y'all, so I had done a video about this.
Look at all these fucking crows. I'm not kidding.
Elk Township, New Jersey.
This shit. Anybody ever seen anything like this?
My For You
Damn, you were right. Here is all the train derailments.
Get right to it. I bet you
These children are not
part of America.
What's overcome my low E?
Hey, do y'all remember that movie, The Birds?
One of these plans for Project Bluebeam is to stage an elaborate...
If there is a cover-up about how bad things are at the North...
It was a desperate night in...
That's a tornado.
tornado.
Yeah, it is.
That sure as hell is.
That sure as hell is.
Sono bene. Fuori quelle.
Horrified look.
Car park of Narelle.
Yo, it's still going.
You are no longer safe in America. Your government is not protecting you. The police cannot protect you. In short, you're on your own. Something has radically changed in America. Crime is coming out of nowhere and is hitting like a thunderbolt.
I'm about to show you what predictive programming looks like.
This is beyond a joke right now. The Turkish government has just shut down Twitter, TikTok. I can't even use TikTok right now. It doesn't work like at all. Like it works.
Wow.
Jesus fucking Christ. This is the Epstein doc.
Guys!
This motherfucker a mile long with all tanks on the back of that bitch. Yep, we gonna die.
Dang.
Guys, I escaped the Matrix.
It's a little weird. Anyone else have?
Bruh. This video is a little bit old, but I do think that it has relevance to what's going on right now. All of this stuff that's going on with this election is just a part of another list. Another stamp we can add to the list of crazy things going on right now. Like, you know how they say that in the end times it's going to be like birth pains? Like anybody who's ever given birth. But it just gets, it's like, whew. Got a little time. Then all of a sudden, boom, 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 until the baby is born. That's exactly what's going on. Like, I remember when I first got into church and stuff, I was like, when was that? Like 2010, 2009, 2009? Y'all, I started into church and stuff when I was young. Y'all, I've always been into this. And it was like, I remember a long time ago, they were saying there's going to be war in the Middle East and Iran, this and that. And now here we are. Like 10 years later, 15 years later. Here we are. You know, and it's like a lot of people are talking about how time has changed, how much faster time is. And it's like, I think that's also a part of the idea of birth pains, bringing in the new nation, bringing in a new time. All of that comes into play. And I think that this person got a crazy For You page. My For You page is not like that. My For You page is it's a bunch of like random stuff that's really funny. But like the way that there's just a whole bunch of stuff you could just list out. Y'all remember in 2020 how many crazy things were happening? Now it's 4 years later. It's almost 2025. You see how fast time went? Anybody else feel like there's just a whole chunk of their life just disappeared like for 5 years, and there's been something going on almost every single year now? And here comes this election. Now everybody's like, oh my gosh, is it going to be a civil war? Like, that's where we're at now. We're at the point where people...
I think I found the real reason why the American Revolutionary War was started. And I think history is repeating itself. And it's not what they taught us in school. Because if you learned about the American Revolutionary War in school, you were probably taught about things like the Stamp Act, where the slogan was no taxation without representation. And sure, this is part of the story, but it's not the whole story. So what was it that the Founding Fathers were really most concerned about? Well, it definitely wasn't tea, and part of it was taxation without representation, but the big thing was actually money. If you notice, the Stamp Act was regulating all sorts of printed materials that had to be printed on stamped paper. So they were regulating printed materials. And the important part is that it had to be paid in British currency, not in colonial paper money, because at the time, the colonists were experimenting with all sorts of their own kinds of money. During the 1700s, the colonists were free from English central banking that had been ruling their lives for the last 100 years or more, and they were inventing their own currencies by the people, for the people. And don't get me wrong, many of those currencies were garbage, and many of them failed. It was the Wild West. There were all kinds of problems with colonial paper money, but it wasn't controlled by the English central bank. And that was a problem. So Great Britain imposed all kinds of laws to try to regulate the paper currencies that were getting invented. And when the Stamp Act went into effect, because so much of these taxes had to be paid in British currency, it put a de facto end to much of this colonial paper money because businesses needed to pay their taxes in this currency. They couldn't pay it with this currency. This is how the British retained control of their currency until the Revolutionary War. It makes me think of one of the most famous quotes from a Rothschild. "Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws."
That's that old.
Mayor Anselm Rothschild, 1790. American history is vastly complex, and any TikTok is going to vastly oversimplify it. But there's a reason why they teach you about the stamps and the tea in school and not about the money. And while I was researching this, I kept on thinking like, the incumbent established governmental powers passing a bunch of regulation to try to regulate new currencies invented by the people?
Interesting.
Weird. That sounds familiar.
It is.
It's almost like people inventing new sovereign forms of money that aren't ruled by central banks and established power is a threat to the powers that be. I mean, it was kind of weird how for years and years and years, the SEC and Mr. Gensler gave no guidance as to whether cryptocurrencies were securities or not and whether or not they'd be regulated. And then all of a sudden we're at war with cryptocurrencies. Besides, Gary Gensler is like a public servant. He's not like part of an entrenched, established financial elite at all. And I mean, come on, he was nominated by Mr. Joe B., who's literally uncorruptible and has no evidence of ever having done anything shady. Besides, Gary's an expert at finance, and he learned it from one of the most reputable organizations ever, who literally can't even escape Wikipedia calling them out, has been criticized for lack of ethical standards, working with dictatorial regimes, close relationships with the U.S. federal government via a revolving door of former employees. I mean, lots of cryptocurrencies are trash, you know? It's the Wild West of new money. Kind of like paper money was back in the 1700s. And it kind of makes you think how different the world would look if we were all still using British currency and this had never happened. But if you work for the CIA and you're watching this, just know that I am not calling for a revolution. I'm just calling for education about finance. Like, the average person doesn't know shit about how money works, and they should. Sue me. And P.S., I'm going out in the woods again this weekend. I'll be gone for a little bit. Don't worry. I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I have no intention to Epstein myself. Life is great over here. Y'all be good now. Drink some water. I think I found the real reason.
Gosh, dog. Well, it was somebody said YouTube, all boys are banker wars. Best video ever. Well, I'm going to take a note to that. Maybe I'll go ahead and watch it or something like that. But yes, follow the money, you follow power. Power is in the money. All of this in the end, even if you look at this election, it's just money. It's all a money grab. How many popular people can you get to put money so you could run this election? I mean, that's just how it goes. Money really does run the world. Just like how I was saying about the shadow government. The shadow government, so they say. Like, literally, it was just a whole bunch of elites and many people with money in that convention. That's all it is.
They've been training for the worst. Screaming voters, deadly packages, and active shooters.
Most important thing is to get those voters out and get them to safety, or put them in a room, get in the room, barricade the door, and fight for your life if you have to. And I never thought I'd ever have to say those words. I'm sorry.
Dang.
They've been training.
Yo, that remind me of, like, you know how black people in the past, like, you try to go and vote, it was like an all-out war. So many people would riot and try to do everything in their power to keep black people from voting. That's what it kind of reminds me of. Like, everybody's just trying to do their best. Now, I don't know. Has there been stories? I haven't seen any stories of actually anything crazy happening at the polls. But they're preparing.
I'm afraid if we lose this one, it's going to take a civil war to save the country, and it will be saved.
Why would it take? I'm sorry, but like somebody had brought up a good point before. Like, oh, I guess it's in the comments right here. Even before I played this video, their idea of a civil war is roaming in packs and murdering minorities. By the way, for real though, like unless it's a state, like a state's military. Like, what was it? Isn't there like a movie where it was like Texas and California teaming together to do? But like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to be just regular people able to amass all these firearms and be able to take over. It's not going to happen like that. It would have to be like military power, and it's really kind of concerning because it's like, unless it's literally like military powers, like the whole state or something fighting, or like an entire city that has like a fort or something, it's not gonna happen. Just regular pale people regular pale people are just gonna literally just be boom 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 against and fighting against minorities, like people of color. Because I mean, that's the image, right? If Kay ends up winning and she's over here promoting herself to be a black person, when she's promoting herself to be a black person, right? Everybody's going to look at her and be like, we're going to just shoot up anybody and attack anybody who's a person of color, basically. They're not going to sit there and really like, think logically, like, oh, all this, like I was talking about the Electoral College and the shadow government. Nobody's going to think that. The average person isn't thinking that. They're really thinking that we have to take down all these colored people because they must have only voted for Kamala, and they're the problems. If we go ahead and attack them, then we could take back the country and make America great again. Because when America was great, you know, in like the what did he say, like the 1790s? Because obviously that was when white power. Let me stop.
I'm afraid if we lose this one, it's going to take a civil war to save the country, and it will be saved. It's the greatest experiment in the history of mankind. And if we come down to a civil war, I'm glad we got people like Schmitty and the Bikers for Trump on our side.
This is Ohio State Senator George Lang calling for a civil war if Trump loses the election. He later said he regrets making those remarks, but they aren't the first of their kind from other Republicans. Recently, Trump himself said,
if we don't win this election, we may never have another election. I'm telling you, this may be our last election.
And numerous politicians on the right have signaled they won't accept the election results if Trump doesn't win.
Yes or no, will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president.
Other MAGA politicians and pundits have also suggested the possibility of a civil war.
We become totally unhinged if Donald Trump is not elected in November.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
I don't want a civil war. I don't want to have to draw my rifle. I want to make this problem go away with my legislative means of doing so.
Harris campaign spokesperson Amar Musa responded to Senator Lang's Civil War prediction in a statement saying, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are running a campaign openly sowing hatred and promising revenge against their political opponents. It's a feature, not a bug, of their campaign and message to the American people. That's why a Republican official was empowered to predict a civil war while introducing these candidates.
I'm afraid if we lose this one...
I really don't like... I really don't like this talk about civil war, but we know it's going to happen one of these days, y'all. It's going to happen one of these days. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the catalyst. I don't know if this is going to be the real thing. I don't think people are mad enough, to be honest with you. I don't think people are really fed up enough. Now, I don't know, y'all, because I'm obviously not on that side. I'm not on that side to really understand like the heat. Like, I'm not in that conversation space to understand the heat and anger. I'm kind of like a neutral person, to be honest with you. I'm kind of neutral, but even the most neutral person has like their own biases, and I'm not going to deny that I have my own biases. But to be honest with you, like I'm like, I really can't say. I don't know what the heck is going to happen, to be real with you. I mean, I can see it go either way, but I just be like, kind of saying like it's kind of cap. Like I feel like it's just getting people angry just to get angry, or maybe it's a call to action to make people because they fear a civil war, so that they're more likely to vote for Trump because they're scared. Maybe it's just a push in the right direction.
If Donald Trump
quote, unquote,
wins,
I don't know.
They will move to disqualify him through Congress, invoke civil war conditions,
Now,
and tell
I can see that more. Like, let's say Trump does win, and then they try to impeach him. They might actually be able to impeach him, and if they actually impeach him, I see that as being a means for a civil war. That's my theory.
If Donald Trump wins, they will move to disqualify him through Congress, invoke civil war conditions, and tell the Trump hordes that Donald Trump is disqualified and not allowed to be president.
So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified, and then we need bodyguards for everybody and civil war conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that back to life, even as we're continuing to amend the Constitution, as Professor Hassan has invited us to do.
What a wild thing to say to a group of people so casually, that we will need bodyguards for everyone, civil war conditions.
That's crazy.
What he is saying, that if Donald Trump wins on January 6th, they must stop him from taking office. If Donald Trump wins...
Honestly, y'all, if I were to say a prediction, I kind of feel like Kay is going to win. There's going to be a video in here. I don't know when, but there's a video that kind of discusses about how she has so many like celebrities behind her, and like I was saying about the spiritual thing, I feel like it's something deeper for her to be being endorsed as much as she is. And I hate to like be, I don't know, even more conspiracy, but The Simpsons hasn't been wrong like that. The Simpsons be hitting the head on the nail a lot of the time, and I remember saying this a long time ago, and I had so many people hating when I had said that I think that Kamala was going to be president. What? I said this during the last election that I thought Kamala was going to be president. When she became vice president, my prediction was that Biden was going to get so sick that Kay was going to have to come up and take over as president. And in a sense, I think that's what's going on now, because we haven't heard anything from Biden since he stepped down as the Democratic nominee. Is he okay? Because didn't Obama just get on stage with Michelle? Like after Michelle got on, he was like talking about how great Biden was, almost as though Biden wasn't here anymore. Almost as though Biden wasn't here anymore. Y'all, The Simpsons did show that after Trump, it was it was after Trump, it was like Lisa, and then coincidentally Harris decided to dress as Lisa. I don't know, y'all.
Here in the United States feel that we're in like the calm before the storm politically for this year. Like, we already know this is going to be one of the most weird, heated elections that we've ever had in our history. To the point that it seems like the country's basically going to dissolve no matter who wins. And before y'all say, that's why I'm voting third party, that's why I'm going Marianne Williamson, that's why I'm going Robert F. Kennedy, you think a third party candidate taking away power from the two major political parties isn't gonna start shit in this country as well? I don't know. It just seems like there's this collective feeling for Americans right now where it's just like, We all know these are the last few days, few months of normalcy before America changes forever. Because if we're being 100% honest, there is not a single way that Joe Biden wins this presidency and the Republican Party doesn't start a civil war. And you have hundreds of Republican donors and sponsors and senators and think tanks all stating that even if Trump doesn't win the 2024 election, whatever Republican does win the next election is completely destroying democracy in this country and installing a Christo-nationalist like ethno-state. And in Project 2025, within the first 100 days, they want to fire hundreds of thousands of federal workers who just don't politically agree with the right. They want to start jailing political opponents. They want to throw illegal immigrants, trans people, gay people, and anybody who doesn't fit into a heteronormative, stereotypical white suburban life into concentration camps. Like, this isn't make-believe. This is legitimately what's happening. And we're just hanging out, work, watching X-Men 97, trying to forget that life is shitty. Does anybody else here in the United States feel that we're in like the calm before the storm?
Well, I mean, he isn't wrong. And so I agree that there is like a kind of calm before a storm. And in a sense, America could change. But I feel like it's only going to change if somebody other than Trump wins. But I don't know. You don't know. Some people are saying how they believe that Trump would get us into war, like get us into World War III. I've just heard so many different things. I really couldn't say, but I do think that The Simpsons might be right. I mean, what better person to run the country and really like change and really shift so that other powers can implement the new world order? Like people be talking about, like, what other person would be better than to put something as astounding as a woman president? It's just so different. We've never had that ever happen in the history of America. I feel like that can easily implement a whole change to the landscape. But who knows?
You know they're not going to just give up easily after the impeachments and the Russian collusion crap and all the fake indictments and the lawfare. This is common sense. So I'm saying be ready for the Civil War conditions and the not certifying it, and Carville saying we need an armed uprising against Trump and Trump supporters. I mean, these people are going for broke.
Yeah.
And mainline Republican supporters aren't really ready for this. Trump is starting to get it and was talking about all this. Just minutes, you know they're not going to just give up easily.
I hate when a video just cuts like that. But yeah, you really don't sit here and believe that they're just gonna let that go.
She goes. She goes.
It's interesting. It is interesting. But like I had said before, like black people are going to vote for Kamala regardless. I don't know if it's like I had two different theories. One theory was that I think that a lot of these celebrities, because most of them have been black from what I've seen. I don't know. Maybe because I'm black, I have a bias and I only see black. They did have Eminem, but yeah, I've seen a lot of black celebrities support Kamala like crazy, and it's almost like some type of weird initiation. I wonder if somebody's going to like mysteriously disappear and we're going to find out years later that this was like a weird like initiation. It was like some type of sacrifice, some crap. That would be insane. But like, so my theory was that they're using celebrities, black celebrities, just to get, you know, as many black people voting as possible for Kamala. That would be like the simple surface one. But like going down the iceberg, I think maybe, like I said, I think it might be some type of initiation. Like I think it might be some type of initiation. It's kind of like showing her power in a different way. If you know about Holly Weird.
My predictions on the U.S. election, who's going to take office and what's going to happen afterwards, and how you can prime yourself to thrive in this new world. And I'm an independent. I have voted across party lines. I have not watched any polling. This is just me reading into the energy and into the ether. So, are you ready?
What?
Kamala Harris is going to take office, and she is going to cement in the era of the feminine, the era of woman. And what you will see after she gets elected is the death rattle of the old guard. And everyone who has been deeply attached to that consciousness of the patriarchal paradigm of we must protect our own no matter what. And our own does not include everybody, okay? And that is dying. And you will see this and the fall of financial structures, in the fall of basically all structures. This has been written, guys. This is something in Chinese feng shui. It's called period 9, and it is the time of the middle woman. And I'm teaching a class on this. You can check the link in my bio if you want. So period 9 is a time where all these old structures are being burnt and purged from the collective so that it can be built anew. It'll seem like chaos, and people will make you think like the world is ending, but deep inside you know that the world is just beginning. And I'm going to tell you why. Women are taking over, okay? Women and beings who are feminine energy dominant, but specifically women at a certain age, middle age, we are the ones who are primed to take control, and we are primed to really grow.
This video is really long, but I do want to make this comment before I forget. I don't know if she realized what she said kind of aligns with what everybody has been saying in this video, like about all the craziness and just the other discussion that's going on in America, or like it's going to come to America. Like people talk about civil war, people talk about civil unrest, people talking about the end times. Like what she just said is kind of alarming, because I understand it's like to bring in the feminine, whatever the heck people believe that to be. I think honestly, some things are a scam. Okay. I think a lot of things that people on the surface, it's a scam, y'all. It's a scam. Either way, this scam, whether people play into it or not, if Kamala does win, I really do think that it's just going to be the destruction. It might be the destruction of America. I don't know. Some people saying Trump wins, it's going to be the destruction of America. But let's just think about it. Like, if Trump does win and like America goes down the toilet, like financially, and then Kamala comes in, like if she tries to run again, do you really think that America going to be the same, or is it going to be like a whole different country? Because like I'm just trying to understand from different perspectives. Like if Kamala comes in later on, like is Trump really going to destroy it, or is it the fact that Kamala comes in now that America is going to be destroyed, or like have a whole civil war? Like we don't know.
In our influence, in our leadership, in this new world, in this new consciousness. And the reason why is we have been doing in our work our entire lives. We have been healing generations upon generations upon generations of slavery, of trauma, of obstruction, of all of this stuff that keeps us down, that keeps the foot of the patriarchy on our necks. And you know what? In our doing of this inner work, we have been taking root in our true identity. We have been taking root in Mother Gaia, in the groundedness of our power. We have been taking root and tapping into what's going on in the collective. And the roots that we have formed within ourselves of our own security, of our own self-worth, knowing our own powers, that cannot be taken away. And those roots form the new world. And I mean, I'm just getting chills. Every single woman, and really everyone who's been doing inner work, are these rooted beings, these giants. And we are walking around planting the new world. And yes, we are the ones who so here's the thing. We need to activate our
All right, moving on. Moving on. But I understand what she's saying. Like, basically, in the end, this is like a revolution. This election is revolutionary, and however the heck it plays out, it's going to play out in some crazy way. If Trump wins, you got Project 2025, which is insane. If Kamala wins, you might have a civil war, which is as equally insane. But according to her, after the Civil War, after all the hell breaks loose, then women are going to rise to power. But is there even going to be a political structure after that? Is America even going to be the same? I mean, let's just be for real.
48 hours away from the first polls closing on the East Coast this election day, 2024. And I am ready to make my prediction. I'm willing to go on the record.
Let's hear your prediction.
I could be wrong, but I feel strongly enough that I'm willing to put myself out there. I live in a purple district. Right now, a Republican represents me in the House. At the local and state level, I have both Republicans and Democrats representing me. And this is a town that I've lived in since before the 2020 election. And the vibe is very different. Now, let me give you some additional context. My background is I study extremist movements. I study the activity of extremist organizations. I infiltrate extremist organizations, and I do threat analyses and threat predictions. Events like January 6th are the insurrection on January 6th are the type of thing that I predict. That's what I do professionally. And as silly as this may sound, though I have access to communications by extremist organizations, and that tells me a lot of gaps are always there. There's always a lot unknown. And I have been pretty good at using kind of vibes to fill in the gaps. In this election, I think that the MAGA movement, the Trump movement in these white suburbs where Donald Trump has racked up a lot of votes, if not won, the energy's not there. It's gone. The vibes are off. Now, this is both in the real world and online. Again, I'm not exclusively on mainstream social media. I'm on all the alternative social media networks. And the community of kind of like the mainstream MAGA Republican that had a bunch of Trump signs out on their lawn 4 years ago, they no longer have that community. They didn't go over to the extremist preferred social media.
Interesting. That's a good point.
Facebook. In this year, they're not duking it out with people. They are not, getting in fights in these community spaces. And in the real world, there are no Trump.
I kind of understand what he's saying. Basically, the supporters, a lot of the supporters that are making noise are more on an extreme level when it comes to Trump. And the regular everyday person did not jump into that. They were probably like, yo, that's just going way too far off. And they're just like, yo, we just gonna chill. So what ends up happening is that you don't have a whole lot of different people out here just rallying for Trump like they used to, like the everyday person. It's mostly the extremists who are making a lot of noise. And in a way, that can actually scare off the regular person.
Trump signs around here. There are lots of Trump signs like on the highway, so I can see that like the campaign is doing it. But out in front of people's lawns, people are not proudly announcing themselves as Trump supporters anymore. And what's notable is that I am seeing a fair amount of Mike Lawler signs. He's the Republican in Congress in this swing seat that represents me.
Interesting.
I think that there are a lot of former two-time Trump voters who are going to be doing a split ticket. I think that Mike Lawler might get reelected. I think it'll be a relatively slim margin if he does. But I think in my district, I think that Kamala is going to get a lot of votes from former MAGA Republicans. And I think that a lot of people are experiencing the same kind of thing in their communities. You know, there are those like die-hard MAGA crazies with, you know, flags all over their trucks, and this is their entire personality. This is all they live for is to like dream of being part of Donald Trump's life.
That's crazy.
Those people are not going to change. But the regular-ish people, the people who voted for Trump because he was a Republican, the people who liked the bombastic stuff in the beginning, I think they're really tired of it. I didn't see them break, you know, after January 6th in a serious way here at the local level. But I think after 4 years, and especially after Trump's most recent deterioration in public, I don't think that he is appealing to them anymore. And I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty confident, at least for the presidential ticket. I don't know that the Democrats are going to keep the Senate and take the House back and get a trifecta. I'm still not thinking that's going to happen, but it could. That's my prediction, you know. Hope.
Well, like he said,
this woman did not grow up middle class. Mother's family was extraordinary.
Hold up now. Hold up now, Candace. Yeah, like I do agree. I think that that's why I really don't know. I really don't know. Like a lot of the people who are on T's side, like it's really silent. It's kind of like some people are really silent. You got people really, really silent, or you got people who are really, really loud. And so you don't. That's why it could go either way. But me personally, I do think Kate's going to win. I think this is set up. Like I was saying in the other video, I think all of this is set up. Like it don't even make sense how you have the Democratic candidate just step down, and then the vice president out of nowhere who wasn't even campaigning and really wasn't that active in the presidential lane for the last 4 years. Hasn't really been like, I remember so many people being like, man, what happened to Kamala? What happened to Kamala? Then all of a sudden, bam, she ends up being the Democratic candidate without all the other Democratic candidates. There was like no rerun. There was no nothing. She just got put up there. And then all of a sudden she has all these celebrities siding with her. She has freaking Beyonce, who rarely ever talks in public. Like she's out here endorsing Kamala. And I don't know if it's just not to endorse Trump, but I mean, we got so many different celebrities. It just makes me think that this is just set up. Like this is really something set up. Something.
This woman did not grow up middle class. Her mother's family was extraordinarily wealthy, and her father's family was extraordinarily wealthy. And it was confirmed to me by her own relatives that her father was handed a business in Jamaica. This is not your middle class person doesn't just like wake up and go, oh, okay, you descend from unbelievably wealthy slavers and plantation owners and sugar plantation supervisors and Standard Oil people. And like, yeah, sure. Like there's some video footage of you and Fidel Castro, but you girl, you're in these streets. You are from these streets. I cannot impress enough that Kamala Harris is potentially an incredibly dangerous person. I know that we are already in the middle of people voting, but as much as you can work to get this information out there, I am telling you, there's something dark. And I think, and when I say something dark, I don't mean a black person. There's not a black person miles and miles within this family. It's not a black person. But I'm thinking that the melanin, if my guess is correct, is going to come from an Indian that may be in her family, because we know that Indians were involved in the sugar trade. From every indication that I have, this family settled from Jamaica, from the UK, and I think that they were involved in the East India Company. This woman did not grow up middle class.
Interesting. But like y'all, in the end, everybody's kind of like up in arms about her ancestry. I've had people say that her dad is really white, that he actually descends from slave masters in Jamaica. Like her dad's dad is white. I've heard that, and I've heard that her dad isn't actually white or black, but is actually Indian that immigrated to Jamaica. So in the end, Kamala's really Indian. Either way, you know she was raised Indian. And I just don't understand why she can't just be Indian if she feels that she's Indian, or feel like she's biracial. Like, I understand Obama was biracial, but he promoted himself to be black. But it's like he didn't try so hard to be black as much as I feel like Kamala has had to do. And I feel like she should just be honest. If she grew up in the suburbs or grew up extremely wealthy, she doesn't have to say stuff like she washed collard greens in the tub or try to talk with a black accent. She should just be herself. But I understand people might say this is a popularity contest more than anything. But as I said before, I don't like this image of black being to where you have to talk a certain way, you have to act a certain way. You're just black because you're black. We're not a monolith. And the fact that she has to try so hard does make me question her blackness. Y'all get what I'm saying? Like, just represent what you are. If you feel like you're East Asian, you're East Asian. If you're Indian, you're Indian. If you're black, you're black. You don't have to have so many people who are black endorsing you to up your black cards. If you're really comfortable with who you are. That's why it's like, I know that she wasn't raised black, because she seems so uncomfortable and so awkward with the idea of being black. It's weird.
Kamala Harris, a prominent figure in American politics, has often been linked to a shadowy world of powerful elites. What if her rise is not just about talent, but connections that run deep into the political underbelly? The whispers suggest that her ties stretch beyond mere influence, hinting at a web of relationships with individuals who possess unfathomable wealth and power. From her time as Attorney General in California to her current position, rumors swirl about secret meetings and agreements. Detractors claim these connections paint a picture of someone who may be more puppet than player, manipulated by forces that thrive in darkness. Harris has been spotted at exclusive gatherings, mingling with billionaires and influential figures, raising eyebrows and sparking speculation. Critics argue that her policies may reflect the interests of these elites, rather than the needs of the populace. Some even suggest that her rise to the vice presidency was orchestrated, a payoff for loyalty to a select few. As her narrative unfolds, the question remains: how many secrets are hidden beneath her polished exterior? The truth may be stranger than fiction, lurking just out of sight, waiting to be uncovered. Kamala Harris, a prominent...
I do think, like I said, I do think that this is set up. I think all this is set up. I'm just giving my little theories, right? This is just for entertainment purposes, but like I do think this is set up, because I do think that they purposely put her as vice president because they had planned this all along for her to end up being the Democratic candidate. I think she was always set up to be president. I think that they learned after having Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. I think Hillary Clinton was supposed to be the one that was going to be the first woman president, but something didn't work out. Like there was maybe there was like contrasting interests or something. But I think that they learned that if they're going to put a woman as president, this is the best plan they came up with that made the most sense. And maybe they were trying to take out Biden to have her as president, but they couldn't take him out quick enough. Or in a way that didn't seem as obvious, like they were trying to take him out. So they were just like, oh, let's just let him deteriorate, and then we're just going to push her as the candidate. I don't know. I'm just coming up with my theories.
President, our issue lies solely with you.
You were second in charge of California for 13 years.
As California's Attorney General, Harris promoted enforcement of a law that allowed prosecutors to seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor in law enforcement, I have a huge stick. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, how can you lock parents up?
If you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail.
You and
yes,
me?
Yes, we achieved intended effect.
I opened the door and I see at least 7 or 8 cops like wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, you know the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this? My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean. She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school. I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense. That person could be arrested. They could lose time from work and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community. I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted. Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed. I became homeless. We had to move into a motel. All because of the swipe of my pen.
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
You were second in charge of the United States for 4 years.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years? There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Inflation is hitting the highest level in 39 years. A record high number of illegal crossings.
Crime's been surging across the nation.
Huge spikes in homicide. Could we be heading toward World War III?
After 17 years of failed leadership, you are now asking us to trust you as first in charge of our country.
I am concerned and focused on big issues. Elementary and middle school truancy is actually a big issue. If we're trying to save the state money, because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money. My message to all Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
As men and protectors of women and children, you are simply a risk we are not willing to take.
Paid for by Maha Alliance and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Interesting take. I did not know. I know that she was putting black men in jail, so they say. Never really went into that, but I didn't know that she had like that truancy thing to where parents were getting arrested and put into jail. That's actually so extreme. Some of the things she was saying was kind of like villainy. I don't know.
So apparently Donald Trump has an exact replica of the Ark of the Covenant in his home in Florida. And when I say exact replica, I mean an exact replica. It took 2,700 hours of labor to make this thing. It has 6 pounds of gold plating it. What's blowing my mind about this is, what if it's the actual Ark of the Covenant? What if Donald Trump has the Ark of the Covenant sitting in his mansion? If you're confused, the Ark of the Covenant is like the most sacred religious relic to the Israelites. It's said to hold the 10 Commandments that Moses was given. Some people actually believe that it also has the Holy Grail in it, the chalice that Jesus drank out of in the Last Supper. Some people even think that this thing held a nuclear weapon because people who were not allowed around it,
That's
that
crazy.
didn't wear like the gold-plated stuff, suffered from their nails falling off, their hair falling off. They'd get like burns all over their skin. Some people even developed tumors all over them. Anyway, back to Donald Trump having this thing in his house, and why I'm questioning whether or not this thing is actually like the Ark of the Covenant.
I'm not going to fully cover the whole thing, but apparently at one point the Knights Templar got their hands on the Ark of the Covenant, and from then on we're not sure what happened to it. Some people think that it was hidden in a mountain in Naboo, others think that it is in a church in Africa, while others believe that it was brought by the Knights Templar to America. I'm not going to dive too deep into that either.
That would be crazy.
It's a lot. But the Knights Templar and its association with Freemasonry and the Illuminati and the founding fathers of our country. Trump is a very powerful man and probably associated with the Illuminati. So what if this man has the Ark of the Covenant sitting in his house in Florida? So apparently Donald...
That would be crazy. You know, we do know about the Ark of the Covenant, at least from the Bible, and how, like, it can cause all types of crazy things to happen. Like, some people got, hemorrhoids or something for taking the Ark of the Covenant. But it's, what they say, it's like a big, huge converter or something. Like, there's just, the way that it's set up, it's where there's just like a bolt of energy in the middle. Like, if you touch it, you could die or something like that. But I've never heard of somebody say that it could be like a nuclear weapon. Wouldn't that be crazy that maybe the Israelites had the first nuclear weapon? That's an astounding thing to think about. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video where we dived into everything. Now, with Trump having the Ark of the Covenant, I don't know if that's just his... I don't know if that's a representation of a bunch of money, because that's a ton of gold. Could you imagine how much that might be worth? If it's made out of pure gold, it could be a representation of money, which is a representation of power. It could show that maybe he's the one that's been designated, or maybe he's channeling something. He's channeling something from the other side. We don't know. So, in conclusion, what do I think? I think Kamala's going to win. I think that I'm not sure if it's going to be a full-out civil war, but it could be the start of some people planning a civil war. We got senators talking about a civil war. Like I said, it takes on a state level now. I don't know if senator and governors. I saw some governors talking about civil war. So I don't know if people going to rally that much to where you can get a whole state to fight against another state and like cut the whole country in half to where everybody's fighting like that. Or if we're going to have a civil war where people just fighting against other people, be some purge level stuff. I just think that y'all black people need to pay attention and be careful, because this isn't really our fight. Like, they try to throw us in here. Like, we ain't got no power. Just to be honest with you, we ain't got no physical power. Ain't nobody with no 9 is going to go ahead and take down the government. This is really white people fighting against white people. And I just want people to be cognizant and aware. I just went through all these videos. You can be aware that people are having insane conspiracies, insane thoughts. This is a serious election. Maybe you should be buying some extra water, extra food. Maybe you should be getting your spirit up, making sure you're repenting. I'm being dead serious, because they're going to look at y'all, or us. I'm saying like I'm not black, but like they're going to be looking at black people as though black people are at fault if Kamala don't win, when we really ain't got no power. Okay, so just keep your brain up. Stay awake. Don't fall asleep. In the end, the president election is rigged. You got Trump, who's clearly working with the government, shadow government, whatever. You got Kamala working with the shadow government as well. It really is just a show. It's just a show. It might even be a social experiment to see, just like with the George Floyd incident, they're just letting people burn stuff up. They were just letting people do that. It wasn't even black people doing all of that. Okay. This is if they're going to have a black person at the forefront of a civil war, it's going to be somebody who's infiltrated and set up and giving money. Just like with the Black Panthers. You just get a black person to infiltrate, and that's it. And make it seem like it was black people doing it. It wasn't. So just be cognizant and aware. This is a serious period of time from now until January 6th and probably beyond. We're going to see if things die down, if Kamala does indeed win, or if people get silent for a moment because they're planning and then it rise up. So just be ready, okay? Because this could be the end of America. We don't know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below your opinions. It's a very long video. Just wanted to, so we can have some fun, I guess. Conversation starters. So comment below. Subscribe for more videos because I do all types of, woke type content. Stuff beyond the surface of the iceberg. So I hope you guys enjoy. Bye-bye.